Don't tell the others. I'm so excited to see you all here for The Princess Comes Across. As Angela said, this is the 90th anniversary of the film, and you get to watch it on film, which is the best way to see a movie. And this is such a charming film. I want to see a show of hands. Who here has never seen The Princess Comes Across? Oh my gosh! Well, I'm so excited for you. This is a fantastic movie. It stars Fred MacMurray as a musician who meets a Swedish princess, played by Carol Lombard, aboard a ship, and they get involved in betrayal, blackmail, and murder. To help me introduce the film, we're lucky to have with us the daughter of Fred MacMurray and June Haver. Please welcome Kate MacMurray. Hello, Kate. It's always so lovely to have you here at the festival.
I love being here. It's wonderful, and I do want to say I appreciate all of you so much because you support really these festivals that keep film alive, and you're a great audience as always. So thank you very much.
And I'm sure they're all big fans of Fred MacMurray. When you think about his career, he made 85 films, and of course you remember him in his morally complex roles, like in Double Indemnity and my favorite, The Apartment. But he was so good as a romantic lead, and I think he doesn't get enough credit for the fact that he was so willing to support strong women on screen.
Yes, he worked with a lot of beautiful women. I mean, Marlene Dietrich and Madeline Carroll, and of course the beautiful Carol Lombard, who was in this film, and Claudia Colbert and Susan Hayward, and I could go on and on and on. But I have to tell you this, now that my father has passed away, it's okay to say this. So he was always very protective of his leading ladies, and he was often asked, who's your favorite leading lady? And he always very politely said, I love them all. And who wouldn't? But he loved Carol best. So he just, and he was very new to his career. He was only 28 when he made this picture. Wow. So very new to Paramount Pictures, and you know, it was a big new world for him. He started out as a musician, so, and Carol took him under her wing, and of course the fact that she loved to duck hunt, as did Clark Gable, her husband, and fly fish, all things my father loved. So they often went duck hunting and fly fishing together. So they had a nice personal relationship off camera too.
Yeah, this was their second of 4 films together, but you were telling me backstage that Carol really helped your father in his career at Paramount.
Very, very much so. He was making, at one time, and this was back when you could do this, when the films were an hour and a half, especially these little lighter comedies. He was making 4 and 5 pictures a year in the beginning. He had an 18-year contract with Paramount Pictures. And so he would be working in one, reading a script for another, looping on something else, costumes on another film. And Carol said, you know, Fred, you're making a lot of money for the studio, and you're not getting paid enough. And Dad said, no, I'm fine. So, you know, he didn't want to rock the boat. He was supporting all the maiden aunties back in Wisconsin, so he didn't want to lose the contract. And she took him, as I said, under her wing, and one Friday afternoon, they were right in the middle of a picture. It was Hands Across the Table, and she said, Fred, get your mother and go to Palm Springs. And Dad said, why? And she said, do what I tell you, and don't come back on Monday. He said, we're filming on Monday. She said, do what I tell you. So of course he took my wonderful grandmother, who was very surprised too, to go to Palm Springs, and he was sweating, you know, he was so worried about what this was all about. And as I said earlier, Monday morning rolled around, and everybody said, where's Fred? And Carol said, oh, he's in Palm Springs. What's he doing in Palm Springs? She said, waiting to hear from me. And why would that be? And she said, not until he gets a little more dough, my dears. So I think he was being paid $200 a week, and I think it jumped to $6 or something like that. That was, back in the 30s, that was very good, and I'm sure all the main aunties back in Wisconsin were thrilled. So anyway, that's my sweet story with Carol.
I love that. She really used her power
Yes,
at the studio to
she
help
did.
her dad.
Yeah.
And as you said, they were great personal friends. I know your dad hung out with Clark Gable
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
And as with Carol.
Yeah, they were, and Clark was such a nice guy, and he was quite shy, and I don't know if a lot of people are aware of that. And if you look back on some of the older interviews, there really aren't a lot of them that he gave. And of course, he was devastated when Carol was killed in the plane crash. And my father was one of the honorary pallbearers, and also my eldest sister, he, in honor of Carol, named my sister after Carol. So she's been a big part of our family forever. And we loved her, and he loved her, and we love her in memory too. So I'm so excited about this film. I've watched it on the little screen, but never on the big screen, so it's a thrill.
Well, something that everyone will see on the big screen is your dad playing the concertina.
Yeah.
So, as we know, Fred MacMurray was very musical. Can you run through all the instruments that he played?
Well, his father, and we talked about this, my grandfather, Frederick MacMurray, was a concert violinist, and he studied in Russia.
Wow.
And with the masters, and came back to the United States and played all over the United States in the Orpheum Theater, that circuit. And my father was born in Kankakee, Illinois, because that's where his father was playing. Happened to be that evening. And so anyway, he was born in Kankakee, but raised in Wisconsin. And he played the saxophone, the tenor, and the alto, and the clarinet, and the trumpet, and the guitar, and the piano, and then of course the concertina. And it's not a real easy instrument to play. His father, of course, my grandfather, wanted him to pick up the violin, and he did for maybe 5 minutes. He said, "No, I don't think so." It's a very difficult instrument to play, and it really belonged, to my grandfather. So, yeah, I have that violin still to this day. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I've got it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, he does some pretty impressive concertina playing. Did he sing as well?
He sings in this film, and he had a beautiful singing voice. And of course, my mother did too. June Haver, she made a lot of musicals at 20th Century Fox. And yeah, thank you. I don't know if any of you know this. I don't know if you know this. My parents were set up on a blind date by John Wayne.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
And he always took credit for it, and I thank John every day, or I wouldn't be here today telling you this story. So, and they were married 6 months later. So Wayne always said, that was me.
Well, one other important collaborator in your dad's life we will see in this film, and that is William Frawley.
I love him. Yeah. And he, of course, was Bub on My Three Sons, and Dad just loved him, and he loved, Uncle Charlie too, William Demarest, and he was a wonderful character actor, and they all worked together at various times. So it's wonderful when friends get together and can work together too, and like each other. That's helpful.
Makes a difference.
It really does. Yeah.
And My Three Sons was the first time you realized that your dad was famous.
Yes, and I was with I have a twin sister, and we were seated on the floor, the carpet, and we were little. We were 3 or 4 years old, and My Three Sons ran from 1960 to 1972, and it came on the show, and I remember Lori and I looked at each other, and then we looked at Dad on the sofa over here, and then on the screen, and very, very confusing. And we were too young, I think, to have it completely explained, but when we got a little older, he took us, not often, but a few times, to the studio, to the set, and he said, that's why I can sit on the couch and watch myself on television. But he never really watched himself. It was very interesting. The only time he ever really was watching was a Double Indemnity on television. And I remember he put the paper down and he folded his arms and he was watching, and he turned to me, I was doing my homework, I was sitting next to him, and he said, boy, I sure talked too fast in that movie. So, you know, of course, when I look back on that, I don't think he talked too fast in that movie. So,
Well, what do you think about him when you watch The Princess Comes Across? What do you see?
Well, what I see is a lovely young man that I didn't really know. You know, he was so young, and I grew up with, he was older, of course, when I appeared on the scene with my sister. And so it's, to me, it's like getting to know him in a different way. As a young man and a young actor starting his career before he'd met my mother, and to see that really incredible talent, so very young, and he never studied acting. You know, he was a natural and a gifted comedian. And I think it was Tom Hanks, and I hate misquoting, so maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I think Tom Hanks once said, comedians make the best dramatists. And not all dramatists can make good comedy, but I think that's very true if you look back on some of our great comedians who also appeared in serious films or serious subject matter. So it's fun. It's like I get to know my father all over again, but as a young man. So to me, it's a treasure. And I have to say again, how thrilled I am that you're all here and that you appreciate film so much. Our family, of course, was in love with film, and to see that love carried on after all these years, when you think how old this film is. You know, 1936. My dad was 28. Good heavens. We're all doing pretty well, though.
Exactly, and I'm so excited for you to see this on the big screen, and for all of you to see the movie. So please join me in thanking Kate MacMurray.